You're watching Fugitive Red-Eye, and welcome to another Red-Eye Responds video. I was going to do another Phantom Strider one, believe it or not, I know, shocking, but I found someone different and thought I'd give you guys a break from Phantom Strider for once, because, believe it or not, I don't solely want to pick on Phantom Strider. There are other people out there, other fish to fry, as it were. So today we'll be looking at Young Defiant and his video Top 20 Garbage Overrated Anime. There's a good chance that this is a troll video, or it is satire. There's a lot of stuff that might suggest that, in all honesty. It's hard to tell. Either this guy is an asshole and doesn't have any taste, or he's joking. If the former is true, he's also incredibly conceited and narcissistic, but I also think he's just playing that up as part of the joke. Whether these opinions of his are genuine or not, I do not know. There is a good chance that this is a joke video, but there's some stuff that makes me think it might be his genuine opinion and he's just being hyperbolic. But a lot of his arguments are non-arguments, so I think that he might be half-assing it and just joking, but who knows, he might be real. So for all intents and purposes, we're going to assume this is a genuinely made list. But when I first saw the title of the video and the thumbnail, I thought, okay, I'm going to disagree with this guy, but ultimately I'm going to be civil, and I'm not going to get angry, and it's all going to be fine, right? But here's a visual representation of how I felt just a few minutes into the video.
See, I'm the king of anime, and no one other than me will ever sit on this throne. I'm not like you casual frauds, you fake anime fans with bad taste. I have amazing taste, and I'm a real anime fan.
See, again, high chance that he's a troll, but if not, he uses the word casuals and true fan a lot, which is incredibly gatekeepy, and I'll have none of that. That's fucking retarded. People like that disgust me. People who are like, oh, you're not a true fan of XYZ, and you're blah 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 blah, casuals blah blah blah, whatever. Point is, there's a lot of that in this video, so just be prepared for that.
In this video, I'm going to be going over the most overrated garbage anime series. These are the anime that a lot of people like and think are good, but they really are not even close to being good. If you like any of the series on this list, you're a moron with bad taste and cannot be taken seriously. This list is 100% fact. This is not an opinion. This is an objective list.
So yeah, that's another reason I think that this video could be a joke. It could be a troll, could be satire. If this is bait, though, like I said, I'm going to take the bait hook, line, and sinker just for argument's sake. He started out with Code Geass and Cowboy Bebop. I've never seen Code Geass, and I've never seen Cowboy Bebop, so I don't know anything about Code Geass, really. But Cowboy Bebop, I do feel that I would like, just because I like Samurai Champloo. I just haven't seen it, so I can't really give an argument for it, but yeah.
Next up is Death Note. Death Note is by far one of the most overrated garbage anime ever created. I mean, the way people suck this anime off and pretend like it's this masterpiece, it's this great series, it's just ridiculous. Like, where are the standards at? If you want a good Death Note, a better Death Note, just watch Monster.
Let me start by saying I fucking love Monster. It's highly underrated, and it's one of the best animes I've been watching this year. Not that it came out this year, but I've been watching it this year. That said, I would not put it on the same level as Death Note. The fact that he praises Monster is one of the few things that I'm like, okay, well maybe he's not a troll. Maybe these are his real opinions, but he's just exaggerating the fuck out of them and also trying to get some hate views. No, Monster is really good, I agree with him on that, but it's no Death Note.
I mean, you got these characters that are just doing these unrealistic things that it's just like, how am I supposed to take this seriously?
Welcome to anime, boyo. It's not realistic. It's just how anime is. I mean, it's about a magical notebook that kills people. I'd say other than that, it's actually fairly grounded despite the supernatural premise.
No likable characters, there's no...
I disagree. There's several likable characters. There's Light, there's L, there's Ryuk, there's Matsuda. There's pretty much everyone in the show. Light's dad. There's only a few characters I didn't really like, being Nier and Misa, really, but he doesn't really give any examples or anything like that, so hard to really give a big dispute on that, but no, the characters are very likable.
No depth to the story.
There's a ton of depth to the story. It's very much, about morality and how there's no right or wrong, and it's got a big, nice game of cat and mouse, and it's about two super geniuses going back and forth at each other and constantly one-upping each other. That's the appeal. Of course there's some depth to that.
There's no complexity to the story.
There's plenty of complexity to the story. Like I said, it's very morally gray. There's no clear-cut good or bad. And it's very much about morality and, ideology. It's very complex. Again, it gets harder and harder to take this guy seriously if he is being serious.
There's no character development at all.
There's plenty of character development. Light becomes progressively more and more off the deep end. And L gets progressively closer to Light and actually starts to care for him as well, even though they're naturally pitted enemies. Matsuda has a whole character arc of, coming to terms with his thoughts on Kira and whether or not he agrees with what he's doing despite having to hunt him. Aizawa has a big character arc, so yeah, there's plenty of character development.
The ending is terrible.
See, it's comments like that the ending is terrible, that makes me think that this guy is definitely a troll, because it has a fucking great ending. There's only a few elements of the ending I don't like. I'm not gonna spoil it, but Death Note has a fucking great ending.
Next up is Steins Gate. This is just another boring time travel anime that does nothing new or unique, but is somehow praised to high heaven.
Steins Gate is nothing but unique. A lot of it is, very comedic and them just kind of sitting around talking, but it's done so well that it really works. And then by the time episode 11 hits, all shit hits the fan. Again, it's statements like that make me think this guy is most definitely a troll. I know I keep reiterating that, but I do want to point out that I'm not oblivious to the fact that these statements do sound pretty ridiculous.
I mean, there are way better time travel anime out there. This one is just full of plot holes, full of plot conveniences. Everything works out fine. There's no consequences.
Yeah, there's no way in hell this guy's not a troll. There's no consequences. That's kind of a big thing in Steins Gate. So yeah, he's definitely making this shit up. He's full of shit. This is definitely a bait.
Next up is Erase. Like Steins Gate, this is just another boring time travel anime. Main character randomly travels back in time. It's not even explained.
The fact that it's not explained is actually part of what makes it interesting. There's no given explanation, and sometimes, less is more. It's very interesting. It makes it unique because, there's some mystery behind it. You don't know what's causing it.
It tries to be a murder mystery at the same time,
The murder mystery is a huge plus for it. It adds on to it and makes it very interesting. The murder mystery is the crux of the story. I'd argue that time travel is highly secondary and isn't anywhere near as important.
Next up is Yu Yu Hakusho. I can't stand Yu Yu Hakusho. Yu Yu Hakusho is garbage. It's nothing but a Dragon Ball Z ripoff that fails in every single way. The characters suck. The story is just boring. Non-stop fights 24/7 to appeal to the shonen tards. Non-stop power-ups left and right because the main character is just completely OP for no reason. He has just every power-up he needs. Typical shonen garbage. Just, like I said, a Dragon Ball Z ripoff, but not nearly as enjoyable.
So again, he's calling it generic shonen garbage and comparing it to Dragon Ball Z, which is the most generic shonen thing. Like, granted, it was innovative at the time, but it's very much what every generic shonen is. And that's not me insulting Dragon Ball Z, I'm just pointing out the cognitive dissonance there. Because, there's definitely some hypocrisy in that statement, which again, could be intentional. That said, I don't remember much of Yu Yu Hakusho, so I can't really comment too much on it. I watched it as a kid, I know I liked it then, but yeah.
Luckily, Togashi learned from his mistake and created, Hunter X Masterpiece. But yeah,
See, Hunter x Hunter is nothing but generic shonen too, so again, I don't see where he's coming from with this. Lots of double standards.
Next up, we have JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, when it comes to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I'm talking about all parts that have been animated so far. So, JoJo is just one of the most overrated pieces of filth I've ever come across. I hate JoJo with a passion. What the fuck? Every part is different, which is stupid in itself.
I'd argue every part being different is actually what makes it great. JoJo is very unique in that each part takes place in a different time setting with a different main character, but progressing an overall big overarching story. With the exception of parts 7 and 8 because it's a completely different universe, but it's the start of a new overarching story, I'd imagine. But since he said it's just all the parts that have been animated so far, it's all one big overarching story in several self-contained little bits, which makes it unique because it builds up the universe and the family line.
To have such an incompetent writer where he's just retconning everything over and over again.
See, he's taking the Iraqi Forgot meme way too literally. And on top of that, he was praising Dragon Ball Z earlier, and Dragon Ball Z is the most inconsistent train wreck when it comes to plot holes, because Toriyama is a fucking mess. Not to say I don't love Dragon Ball Z, but it's a fucking mess when you look at it about continuity and plot holes.
It started off as a shonen, then it went to a seinen.
I don't know if it actually went to a seinen, but if it did, I'm all for that, because I'm all for it getting more gritty and dark.
The characters suck. There's not one interesting character out of all the parts I've watched. It's just been boring characters left and right.
Every character has been interesting in their own right. You know, Jotaro's, the delinquent, but ultimately deep down, he does care about his mother, and he cares about the people around him. He's just got a very tough and rough exterior. Giorno is, a gangster, but he has morals and wants to clean up the streets so that they're, not selling drugs to kids. Josuke is a good and loyal friend, albeit kind of a, mischievous little scoundrel, but he takes after his father in that regard. Joseph, again, very mischievous and very much, playful and kind of lazy and funny, but ultimately he'll do what needs to be done when the time comes.
The art style sucks.
Nah, the art style is actually really fucking cool. I like the art style. It's very unique.
I hate JoJo, and don't get me started on the fan base. JoJo has one of the worst fan bases in anime.
See, while I admit the JoJo fan base can be obnoxious, I'll say that it's actually one of the most fun and interesting fan bases in anime. It's way less annoying than, say, the My Hero fan base. The JoJo fan base is essentially just shit posters, and that's what's fun about it, and I love it. Next, he talked about Rurouni Kenshin, but having not seen that, I can't really comment on it, but I'm sure that he's being dumb again, because he makes a lot of the same points he keeps making.
Next anime is The Promised Neverland. For so long people were begging me to watch this anime, like, come on, this is an actual good shonen, you'll enjoy this one. And as soon as I watched this anime, I realized they were wrong. They were just idiots that didn't know what they were talking about, because this is just another boring generic shonen.
See, again, I can't stress enough, I'm pretty sure this guy's a troll, because that is anything but a generic shonen. It's very different than most of the shonens you see. It's about a bunch of kids trapped in an orphanage with these monsters that have been, killing a lot of them and sending them off to be eaten and whatnot. I haven't actually finished it. I've seen a good chunk of it. I think I've seen like 5 or 6 episodes, maybe. I do plan on continuing it, but I'm watching it with someone, and they don't like me to watch it without them, and so I haven't continued it for a minute. But what I've seen, I've really liked.
Nothing but an Attack on Titan ripoff,
It's nothing like Attack on Titan. The only similarity is that there's monsters. That's literally it. There is no other similarities whatsoever.
Next up is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Now, I used to like this anime until I went back and watched it recently, and I quickly realized it's nothing but overrated garbage. This is why it's important to experience things multiple times, because a lot of you losers will watch something one time, think it's good, and then never touch it again.
Nah, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood's great. Again, I haven't seen the whole thing. I have seen the original Full Metal Alchemist all the way through, and I liked that, which a lot of people don't. But Brotherhood's really good, too, from what I've seen, so no, I disagree.
This story is just boring. It introduces a lot of themes, but doesn't do well. It doesn't implement them well into the story. It all boils down to a boring fetch quest and just your typical shonen anime full of tropes.
Well, I'll admit it has some tropes because it is a shonen series. I would disagree wholeheartedly on calling it generic and saying that it's a fetch quest, because it's really neither of those things. There isn't a goal they're going towards, but that's every anime ever. And I think it implements the themes really well within it. Alchemy and, the homunculus and things like that. I think they were all implemented pretty well.
I don't like any of the characters. They are all bland and receive no development.
Once again, there's plenty of character development. Ed progressively comes to terms with what he did. Al has the whole thing about his identity crisis of trying to figure out whether or not he was real, and ultimately coming to terms with the fact that yes, he was. And their goal to, restore everything back to normal and make everything good again. There's plenty of character development, and the characters all go through a really good story arc. Next, he talked about Gurren Lagann. Haven't seen it, can't really comment on it.
Next anime is One Punch Man. Now, One Punch Man became very popular due to the fact that it catered to casuals who were not smart enough to experience thought-provoking, well-written anime series.
To be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to understand Rick and Morty. The humor is extremely subtle, and without a solid grasp of theoretical physics, most of the jokes will go over the typical viewer's head. There's also Rick's nihilistic outlook, which is definitely woven into his characterization. His personal philosophy draws heavily from Narodnyavulya literature, for instance. The fans understand this stuff. They have the intellectual capacity to truly appreciate the depths of these jokes. So it's really good to see a fellow Rick and Morty fan. He's seen all the Rick and Mortys. He's very smart. He belongs in r/I am very smart.
The story was boring. It was nothing but one guy goes around punching everything and winning. You know, that's it. There was just nothing to the story. It was so bland, so boring. There was no depth to it.
There was plenty of depth to it. It's just Saitama is, overpowered. But all the other characters have an arc they have to go through. And Saitama cares about them and things like that. And is coming to terms with the fact that, he's the overpowered one and feels kind of pointless about it, but ultimately he's trying to find a sense of purpose and seeking out that enemy that will take more than one punch.
The side characters all sucked and had absolutely no depth whatsoever.
The side characters had a ton of depth. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like they're out there trying to be genuine heroes and trying to, be saviors of the world, essentially, but they actually have weaknesses and need help out there. For instance, Genos is training under Saitama to become a genuinely strong hero, and he is genuinely strong, but obviously he's no Saitama. So, no, the characters have a ton of depth. You're fucking wrong. But again, I do think that he is a troll, because, again, these statements do not sound genuine. Next, he talked about the Rising of the Shield Hero. Haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it.
Next up is Mob Psycho 100. Now, Mob Psycho 100 is literally just One Punch Man. That's it. This dude did the same series twice.
No, they're very different. They have very different characters, very different setting. There are some similarities, for sure, especially in the comedy, and maybe the fact that the main characters are very powerful, but Mob isn't quite as powerful as Saitama, obviously. And there are definitely different themes, and in my opinion, Mob Psycho is actually kind of better than One Punch Man, so it's a little bit hard to say, but no, they're very different. They just have a lot of similarities because they're the same style and same creator. Next, he talks about that time I got reincarnated as a slime. I haven't seen it, but it really doesn't seem like my thing, so I'm actually kind of inclined to agree with him on this one, even though I haven't seen it. So if I had seen it, maybe that'd be different, but it definitely doesn't seem like my cup of tea, so he might be right on this one. But if you like it, I'm not going to be like, oh, you're a garbage casual. But no, I haven't seen it, so I can't say for certain either.
Next up is Tokyo Ghoul. Tokyo Ghoul is just a Parasite ripoff that fails in every way.
No, Tokyo Ghoul is very different from Parasite. Like, yes, there are similarities in themes, once again, and it's definitely a similar kind of concept. But Parasite, if anything, is just a Devilman ripoff, because Devilman was written a good 17 years before Parasite, and is much better than Parasite, in my opinion. Although I do need to go back and finish Parasite, because I actually gave up on it a few episodes in, if I'm being perfectly honest. And that was unfair, because it was for a stupid, arbitrary reason, so I'm going to go ahead and retry Parasite. But if you're going to make that argument, no, because Parasite would essentially be a Devilman ripoff, but with aliens instead of demons. If anything, Tokyo Ghoul is more similar to Devilman, because ghouls are more demonic than they are alien, I would say.
Main character gets no character development throughout the series at all.
Okay, I know I sound like a fucking broken record, but this guy's clearly a troll. Kaneki has a ton of character development. Originally, he starts out as a caring human, becomes part ghoul, struggles with the fact that he has to now eat human flesh to survive. Originally doesn't want to do it, but then embraces being a ghoul fully. So again, I'm fairly certain this is just a wind-up.
It's pretty much Dragon Ball Z with ghouls, where it's just...
There are no similarities to Dragon Ball Z whatsoever, other than that there's fighting, and it's a shonen series. That is it. Next, he talks about One Piece, which I haven't seen, but ultimately I don't plan to, because again, One Piece doesn't really appeal to me either, so I don't necessarily disagree with him on One Piece. I do think he exaggerates it and is overly harsh, but having not seen it, I can't say for sure, but I definitely don't have any interest in watching One Piece. Next, he talks about Demon Slayer, which I haven't seen, so I can't comment on, but I am interested in Demon Slayer, so I'll probably check it out at some point.
Next up is Naruto, another garbage anime I've made a video on. To sum it up, it's a Hunter x Hunter ripoff, convoluted plot hole infested story full of retcons and ass pulls, horrible characters. Naruto himself is one of the worst anime characters of all time.
Okay, first off, Naruto is a super developed character with an amazing backstory that's super sad and super cool. He has some of the best development I've seen as far as shonen anime characters go. Doesn't have anywhere near as many retcons and inconsistencies as Dragon Ball. If anything, it has a ton of depth because every single fucking character has to have an in-depth backstory, even if they're only in like one episode. And ultimately, Naruto's just better than Dragon Ball, and again, he kind of praised Dragon Ball earlier, and Naruto is way better than Dragon Ball. At least Dragon Ball Z. Again, it's hard to say with original, but yeah.
Attack on Titan is up next, and this is another anime I made a video on. Edgy garbage with a bland story that relies strictly on shock value instead of good writing.
No, I'd argue that the creepy atmosphere surrounding the first season is what really makes Attack on Titan good. The gore itself is secondary. It is still there and is still pretty good gore. But the creepy atmosphere surrounding it is what really made it for me for the first season. I will admit, however, I did not care for the second and third seasons. They were not very good.
Next up is My Hero Academia, yet another anime I've made a video on. Generic, cliche, garbage Naruto ripoff, which is just crazy because as bad as Naruto is, that's what you want to base your series off of. And
I like My Hero Academia, but he's kind of right here. I don't agree with him categorizing Naruto as bad as he is. And I think he's a little overly harsh on My Hero Academia, but yeah, it's just kind of a Naruto ripoff, and it's just kind of a generic shonen. While it's fun, and I like the characters, and it's good action and a good story, it ain't nothing special, and it is overrated, so I'll give him that. Next he talks about Black Clover, which I haven't seen, so I can't really comment on. Next he talks about Your Name, which I haven't seen, so again, can't really comment on.
Next up is Sword Art Online. I shouldn't have to say much about this. People should already know how bad this is. Sword Art Online is just everything that is wrong with anime, and if you're a fan of Sword Art Online, you honestly need to seek medical attention immediately because...
So I'll admit, I have my issues with Sword Art Online. I thought Alfheim was kind of a stupid arc. I don't think it was as bad as some people say it is. I thought there were definitely issues with the series from the start. I think the first arc is definitely the best. Gun Gale was actually pretty good. I didn't like all that stupid filler stuff after Gun Gale, though. But overall, Sword Art's just kind of okay at best. And I do think that it is kind of overrated and stupid. But on the other hand, I think it's also kind of overhated now, so I think that it's actually kind of not overrated anymore. If anything, it's been pushed so far to be hated that it's almost underrated at this point, but it's nothing spectacular. He then ends it off by talking about No Game, No Life, which I haven't seen, so cannot comment on. But, yeah, that is Young Defiance top 20 overrated garbage anime. In all honesty, the second time watching it in preparation for this video, as I'm recording my commentary, made me realize even more that this is almost definitely a troll. Very clearly a joke. It is not a serious opinion as far as I can tell, and if it is, there's something wrong with this guy. I'm fairly certain this is a joke video. There's a slight chance that it's not, which is why I made this video in the first place. But yeah, it's very clearly, not to be taken too seriously. And if it's a joke, it's actually kind of funny. But if not, it's a very stupid hot take. Either that or he's just kind of a contrarian and likes to hate on popular things. That could be another thing. But then again, he liked Dragon Ball, so who the fuck knows? But yeah, that's it. Just thought you guys could use a break from Phantom Strider, but I will be doing a response to Phantom Strider again fairly soon, so you have been warned. See you later. Toodles.
Mr. Hat gets a nose job.